10th chapter, he says, there are three kinds of innovation. First is a good innovation, which is that which the well-guided leaders have opined in conformity with the book and the Sunnah, right? When we say opined, it means that they formulate opinions or approaches or methodologies that are directly rooted in the Quran and the Sunnah, right? So, for example, we have four schools of thought, right? These are directly rooted in and inspired by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have four schools of law in Islam. These are directly inspired by the message of our Prophet. Right, so this is what the Shaykh is talking about here. Some people that go around that say following a madhab, it's his bid'ah. Following one of the schools of Islamic thought is a bid'ah. This is madness. No one has said this through Islamic history, subhanallah. But that statement is actually one of a bid'ah. It's a major innovation and something that's really, really problematic. Now, so the first is good. It's good innovation. It's inspired and it conforms with the book and the Sunnah. It intends to choose that which is more beneficial, more useful, and finer. For example, Abu Bakr's collection of the entire Quran in one volume, right? Or Umar's radiallahu anhu institution of military pensions and also of Taraweeh prayers. So these are good innovations, or good things that reflect vigor in religion. That religion is alive, that it's living. And we want to remind ourselves that our religion is a living sort of experience, a living heritage. And we inherit, and it's a living heritage, right? Now, and also Uthman's arrangement of the Quran, and also his compilation of the Quran. Also his institution of a first call to prayer on the day of Friday. Furthermore, Ali radiallahu anhu, his rules for engagement or fighting the heretical rebels. These were the Khawarij. These were the Khawarij who rebelled against Imam Ali. Also the Khawarij, they're still around today, actually. They're still around today. And I don't want to call out any names, but they're still around today. And if you learn their signs, you'll know exactly where they are. I won't call in names, though. Save ourselves the controversy. We have a quick question. Would you say we have 5 major schools of thought, including Ja'fari fiqh? So the Ja'fari madhab is, of course, it's considered a Shi'i, the part of the Shi'i thought, the Shi'i school. So it's not a Sunni school of thought, but it is a school of thought, though. It's a school of fiqh. There has legal rulings. It's interesting that the Ja'fari school, it's quite similar to the Hanafi school if you study it academically. It's very similar. It's very similar, and this shouldn't surprise us because Imam Ja'far, radiallahu anhu, was the teacher of Abu Hanifa. So if we really study our history, we see that we have a lot that unites us more so than divides us. So you talk about Sunni Shi'i, it's really, subhanAllah, if we study the history, we see that we have so much that brings us together as believers under La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So much that brings us together. Yet, unfortunately, sometimes we use politics to divide between us. So there are 5 major schools of law in Islam: 4 Sunni, 1 Shi'i. You can say that, right? So the 5th would be the Ja'fari school, which is the school of the Shia, which it's the Shia school. So that can be said. Now, continuing on. May God bestow His good pleasure upon the four caliphs. I want to stop here and also reiterate this, that the 4 caliphs, they are called the Khulafa al-Rashidun for good reason. That these are men that they effectively, we describe these men as being the appendices to the seerah, the biography of the life of the Prophet, that blessed, that sacred life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of the Prophet. They come and they sort of complete the book. Really beautiful analogy if we stop to think about it, right? So these men aren't prophets, but they're prophetic-like. They're prophetic. They're not prophets, but they are prophetic. To the extent that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said about Umar, of course we know what said about Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he's our master. If Abu Bakr, if his iman was placed on one scale, the entire ummah's iman was placed in another scale, Abu Bakr's iman would outweigh the entire ummah. This is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. This is the first Khalifa of the Muslims, hands down, right? As we say it in Arabic, ala ra'si wal ayn. This person, full respect. And we have Umar radiallahu anhu, who of course, second caliph, and he comes and he establishes justice and really fills the earth with justice, and he rules with, you know, with strength and power. So these four caliphs, they come and they are effectively, so actually the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says about Omar, that's how you can see these men are prophetic. They're not prophets, but they are prophetic, right? That Omar, it said that he had an angel that resided on his tongue. The angel's name was Sakina. That when Omar, when he spoke, the speech was angelic. When he spoke, the speech was prophetic. This is Omar. You can read the stories. I'm not making this up, right? So they're big men, and they come and they represent religion that is alive, religion that's vibrant. This is the sort of religion that we want, religion that's empowering, religion that you walk amongst people, you can walk amongst protesters, and you keep the integrity of, and you walk based on your own principles and precepts, ones of your faith, right? That is, we don't have to import from other people. And trust in, I'll give you guys a secret. Any good that you, and take this to heart, any good that you see in any political movement, any good that we see in the world, it comes from the prophets. Standing for social justice comes from the prophets, but of course in a prophetic sort of way. Standing against the abuse of women, prophetic. Standing against racial injustice is prophetic. So these things come from our religion, and we should know that, right? And there's no need to import things from modern ideologies, right? Marxism, and we have to be careful of this. It's a sad reality that we live in today. Live in an age of political manipulation, and this can be studied. I mention it because it's something that weighs heavily on me that I have to tell you. I have to inform you of what's going on. It may not be immediately apparent to everyone, but this is the world that we live in, of political manipulation from all sorts of quarters. These are people who don't see the akhirah, they don't believe in the akhirah, so they'll do whatever they want to gain more of this dunya. So you enjoy your life, you only live once. We have these slogans, you only live once. So enjoy life while you can. And we have the pragmatists who basically, ends justifies the means. And so we have so much bloodshed and slaughter and fasad in the world today. But of course, there is a day of judgment, and Allah will bring people to account. Even in this life, we have people that will be brought to account. Now, continuing on though, without digressing too much. The second kind of innovation is one that is blameworthy. Only of renunciation and contentment, such as the excessive use of illicit clothes, foodstuffs, and houses. So this is an innovation that's not at the highest level, right? It's sort of this is basically gluttony, or we call the word for this innovation is decadence. Decadence. Basically, this is when we start to forget who we are. We start to forget the essence of religion. The essence of religion is that you're balanced in this life, that you use this life to basically get to the, you use this life as a bridge to get to the next life. So this is what this life essentially is for. But people who become decadent or too overly engaged in the world to the extent that it blinds them from the akhirah, effectively what happens is they will sometimes even go astray because of an over attachment to the world. And of course, the Prophet warns us from this. And he says that in the end of time, this will be the downfall and the thing that hurts his ummah the most. That the ummah will have a fear of death, and also hubbud dunya, love and an over attachment to the world. Allahumma akhrij hubbad dunya min qulubina ameen. We ask Allah to bring out to expiate and to exercise, give us an exorcism from the hubbud dunya ameen. That we are people who are in control of our fears, that we have the dunya in our hands, it's a tool, and we don't have it in our hearts. And of course, it takes a process of training, discipline, and this is what the spiritual path is for. This is what Islam is effectively for, to allow us to see things in the right way, and not to be caught up into the tricks of the dunya. We said that the dunya, it's like an old witch. The dunya is like an old sorceress, right? One of the shuyukh, he mentioned in his book that the dunya, it has more sihr, it has more magic, it's more deceptive, more magical, more has more sorcery than Harut and Marut. These are Harut and Marut. You can read about them in Surah Al-Baqarah. These are two angels which human beings were tested by, and that story is a long one. But this dunya has more like deception and sorcery than any magician or any sorcerer. Subhanallah. This is the dunya. Continuing on. The third kind is absolutely blameworthy innovation, which contradicts the provisions of the book and Sunnah or the consensus of the nation. Innovators have fallen into this very frequently with regards to principles, usul, but infrequently with regard to branches, furu'. So as it concerns usul, we're Islamic aqidah or belief system, right? So we have usul and furu', roots and then branches. Trust and belief. So when you talk about usul, if a person has proper usul, a proper fundamental understanding of religion, right, then a person, basically, one of the things that will happen, for example, he or she cannot be a racist. If you have a fundamental and rudimentary proper understanding of Islam, you can't be a racist. The two things, it doesn't go together. It's like mixing oil and vinegar. It won't go together, right? So we stress understanding our religion at a fundamental level. If you do, you save yourself from a world of harm for yourself and also the rest of humanity, animals, plants, the oceans. If you understand who you are and have proper aqidah, right? Some people I've seen on social media, some people, they are questioning the imams. They say the imams, we are teaching, aqidah and fiqh, while the world is basically up in arms, meaning to say that we don't need aqidah and fiqh right now. We don't need to understand Islam right now. We need political activism. We need revolution. We need to be radicals. No, understand your religion, understand your faith, understand who your prophet is, understand how our prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam transformed the world. It already happened if we only have our eyes open. The prophet, he had the revolution already with prophetic precepts. It happened already. And all we have to do is tap into that tradition, tap into our own affairs, tap into our own legacy, our own heritage. We only knew. Continuing on. The one who does not adhere to exceedingly to the book and the Sunnah and does not do his utmost to emulate the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then pretends that he has a certain degree before Allah, the God, the exalted, be paid attention to, nor attended if he be able to fly in the air or walk on water, right? Or have distance folded up for him and the laws of nature broken for him. Really dense sentence here, dense sentence. The Shaykh, he's talking about that if a person doesn't follow the Quran and the Sunnah, maybe he doesn't pray, doesn't fast, then whatever he does after that really is, we're not concerned with it. We don't pay attention to it too much, especially if the person claims to be a Muslim. You can do all sorts of wonderful things, maybe fly in the air, walk on water, jump. You can read the stories. Many of you maybe know stories of people who do fantastic things, charismatic things. Look at their character; it's terrible, right? They will abuse children, abuse women, right? They don't have time to go into it right now. The point is to say that the people of innovation, it doesn't matter if they are upon innovation or if they're upon this bid'ah, whatever they bring forth or whatever they do, this is not to be paid attention to. That we don't listen to such people or take them as our examples. The Shaykh, he continues, this happens frequently to demons, magicians, soothsayers, talisman makers, astrologers, and others who are similarly in error. So, right, the magicians, the sorcerers, the soothsayers, and these things are real. These can only be considered. The Shaykh, he then says, if a person performs any miracles or charismatic feats, that if the person is a righteous person, then it is what we call a karama, right? It's a karama. So a person has moral rectitude and he does the right things, he has proper belief, and he prays and he fasts and so on and so forth, that this is a karama, it's a blessing from Allah. But if we see a person that is doing that or doing magical feats or charismatic feats, but we know the person, terrible character, maybe he doesn't pray, maybe he doesn't fast, then we know that this is a demon, right? This is a shaitan. And there are many of these shayateen al-ins, the Satans amongst the devils amongst human beings. They are these people, right? And they can do, some of them do interesting things, but yet still we're not fooled by them. Such people are deceivers, and they can only deceive the rabble and the base people who worship God while harboring doubts, right? So they worship God while harboring doubts. The ulama, they teach us that the best thing to ever be descended from the heavens is al-yaqeen.